Good evening and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian Dresick, and this is your other host,
Christina Fasonic. How are you, Damian?
I am well, Christina. I am well here this late autumn evening. I'm very excited about the writer we've got tonight.
Yes, I saw when I posted the who our writer was this evening that lots of people were saying, he's my favorite. So I hope that there will be plenty of people tuning in tonight to check out his work.
Yeah, when I first moved to Pittsburgh from New York, I was running an in-person series, and everyone said, you need to get Jim Daniels to read. And I wasn't really familiar with Jim's work, and I read it, and I was super impressed about the kind of material he was taking on and the way his approach was really impressive, and he came in and read and just blew the doors off the place. It was wonderful. So I'm very excited about that. I also wanted to maybe take a moment to pause. We sat on a more somber note. The Appalachian writing community has lost one of our literary lions in the last week, and I just wanted to maybe make note of that and maybe take a minute or second or two to remember. And he was a WANA Live reader. The Ed McClanahan. One of the Kentucky Five. Ed will always be remembered for his humanity and his wit. So maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I remember well the episode when he was on, because it was simultaneous like laughter and surprise and all the wonderful things that an amazing writer gives us in person.
Yeah, Ed is truly a legend. What a warm and kind and brilliant man. So impressive, and a big loss for Appalachian the writing community.
Absolutely.
But so I just wanted to, I think we need to recognize that. But tonight we've got the wonderful and amazing Pittsburgh poet, fiction writer, and screenwriter. We have Jim Daniels, who is the author of 20. Christine, do you have a bio up? Mike, something went wrong with the page.
Wrong with the computer over there?
Bear with me. Sorry. No?
Do you have it up? If not, I can try to.
I did, but it just crashed. I know Jim has published, I believe, 26 books of poetry. He has published multiple collections of short fiction. He has won so many awards that it would take most of our evening to recite them all. And his latest book is the poetry collection Gun Shy from Wayne State Press. And I hope I didn't miss anything, because I just sort of did that from memory. Let's bring out Jim Daniels.
I have his bio up, and I can give you a couple more specifics.
Okay.
28 collections of poetry, 6 collections of fiction, and 4 produced screenplays. That is quite a tally. In any career, that is quite a number of accomplishments. So, wow! Welcome to the show.
Sorted them on 2 collections of poetry.
Yes.
Okay, so Jim, welcome.
Thank you both, Christina and Damian, and thanks for having me on. It's a real pleasure and honor. And I once went whitewater rafting with Ed McClanahan, so it's sorry to hear about his passing, because he was a great guy, and yeah, warm, great sense of humor. It's too bad. So I'm going to read a couple poems from Gun Shy and see where that leads us.
All right, we'll get you off here and give you the.
Okay, so this first poem is called "I Love Watching Rivers." And because being in Pittsburgh, we have 3 of them, and there's a lot to watch. I love watching rivers. I'm not fussy. Any body of rushing water. 300 miles away, my parents meet with a briefcased man to settle their affairs on their way out the door. So we don't kill each other trying to do it ourselves. Us, the kids, and it dividing the meager spoils with the clawed hands of grudge. We ourselves prepare to retire, take the package, shred the paper, wave goodbye or give the finger or both. The river never waves goodbye. The Monongahela after spring rain, high ripples, brown churn. I hear that long gone fish are returning to cleaner waters. Long gone faith returning. Going against the current has never been our style. My parents nervous to meet the man, relieved when he's gone. Blowing in the wind, they grip the clothesline, lists shorten in my father's neat script. My blind mother scrawls in overlapping hieroglyphics. We try to decipher when a mailman guesses right and drops her letters into our boxed hearts. We name our rivers, but I think of them as one constant unnamed thing in the face of all we name, in the face of calculated distance. The man with the briefcase is headed my way. Everybody has a lot to say about rivers and dying. Today, I'm just watching, carried away. And this next poem I'd like to read is set in Pittsburgh. You know, I lived in Oakland, which is right next to universities, actually, the University of Pittsburgh in particular. And we're also right next to Shenley Park. And it became a kind of oasis for me and my family, especially when my kids were young. So, and some people might know there's a pond in the bottom of Panther Hollow, a cement pond. And this is called Fishing in the Cement Pond, Shenley Park, Pittsburgh. Most people don't even know about the pond at the bottom of the deep hollow, reached only by an ancient staircase crumbling down the hillside. We slid down on our asses with our plastic poles and can of worms dug from our yard's packed dirt. My son, 6, the pond enormous in his squint. Under the shadow of the high bridge, among crushed appliances and bald tires, green glass shards and disintegrating cardboard, we sat on the pond's cement lip, man-made and man-ruined. Yet fat, wizened catfish, murky shadows of carp wallowed. Flimsy bluegill shimmered with illusion, and he wanted to keep his first. It swallowed the hook. I wiggled it out, returned the fish to water, but it floated back toward us through the muck. We could almost see our house above the hillside, but my son was glad we couldn't. We saw a large man on a milk crate fishing as if he cared. My son wanted to row across on a raft of tires or in a fridge with the door removed. Above us, the city passed another hot, endless August day. Traffic from the freeway hissed through trees. Our dead fish shone flat in the sun. The blind fisherman flinched at our casting. He asked my son to tell him what he saw and was told a tale of gigantic proportions. The man cocked his head and laughed. I do believe I hear the waves, he said. The cement pond, giant seashell, or rusted car magnified all sound. We ran out of worms or the fish stopped biting. A thin line of sweat glistened on my son's upper lip. He'd caught his first fish and talked to a blind man. The city waited above us with red signs and yellow lines. Can we get lost on the way home? He asked. You need a map for that, I said. We struggled up the broken steps. How did that man get down there? He asked. The sea was vast and unknowable. And the other thing we have a lot of in Pittsburgh is bridges. And so this poem is called Spanning. I love bridges, the narrower the better. So narrow, you have to wait for a car coming the other way. Wave it on so you can be joyful and generous and wait your turn. You have to slow down and not scrape the sides with your vehicle or psyche, tenderly gripping the steering wheel and commenting on the weather seeping in through the suddenly musical windows to whoever might be listening. And you love whoever forever, even if they're asleep in the back seat, slack mouths agape. You're moving slow enough to feel the bridge sway, adjust. Even though you have not risen, you are now above, almost hovering, floating, almost flying over air, water, steep hillsides, as if God had rolled his magic dice and called your name. Or so you imagine, so you're hearing, because you slowed down and turned careful, and the world has blanketed your loved ones and seats around you. And you might see someone, not a toll taker or inspector or customs official or uniformed uniform, not someone with a hand out for documents or payment, just someone looking up or across or over or even down from higher ground, someone who sees you pause on the bridge. Oh, the many journeys, the many bridges you might never cross again. A someone who offers the generous, unexpected gift of a hand waving in the air. You wave back. Okay, so I'll stop there and come back in and join me.
That was so awesome. I love that. My first thought is about the last poem that you read, and it reminds me this waving and this acknowledgement. A friend of mine's mother was visiting from Texas and was driving across the Fort Pitt Bridge, and you know how it's like a nightmare of merging there.
Oh yeah.
So she merged and cut some woman off, and the woman in the car with PA plates, probably from Pittsburgh, I'm assuming, rolled down her window and yelled, "We take turns!" And I think it's like, that is the most Pittsburgh driving story I've ever heard. And how, you know, these bridges are the things that connect us. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And how important that is. And I absolutely love the big fish story. The idea of the cement pond and the man-made and man-ruined just really, really resonated. So this,
yeah. Well, in a child's eyes, any place can seem magical.
Oh,
and that was one of the great things when my kids were young, was to see things anew, see the magic and things like that through their eyes.
Yes, absolutely. And it is amazing because you get this, maybe you never saw it that way ever until your child says, this is what I see, or describes it in such a different way. But you have to pay attention, right? And listen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, such delicious work. I imagine your son is this post-industrial Huck Finn floating down the Ohio River with an oar in a refrigerator.
That's what was going on in his imagination. Yeah,
this is lovely. I think that's going to be a Netflix show. And that line, this is going to become part of my vocabulary. Is like I can hear the waves. Like if somebody tells me a good story, I can hear the waves. It's lovely. It's such great work. We have
clear pictures, some very clear images. I really very much felt like I was there in all of the work that you read, and that's a powerful thing to be able to do with writing.
Yeah, one of our regular viewers, the terrific editor and writer Rusty Barnes, said, "Wonderful fishing poem, Jim."
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Rusty.
And another of our regular views, Joe, is wonderful to hear Pittsburgh in this image-rich poetry. And I was thinking a little bit about that as you read. There's so, I mean, there's a whole book called this, but I love the mysteries of the other mysteries of Pittsburgh. You're so engaged with, and bringing Pittsburgh to life in this such a tangible and inescapable way.
Yes.
Thanks, because as I think you know, a lot of my writing has been focused in on Detroit, where I'm from, over the years. But I've been in Pittsburgh a long time now, and it's definitely become home for me in many ways. And it's the setting for a lot of my work these days. And I'm in Gunshy, I sort of toggle back and forth between the two places. And I kind of toggle back and forth between being my parents' son and being a parent myself. It's really an interesting, challenging stage of life in various ways.
As my mentor, Rick Barthelme, would say, it's a complicated piece of business.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I appreciate Christina saying the clarity of it, because that's something I've always really tried to convey in my work, for better or worse. I want to bring people into these worlds, whether it be Pittsburgh or Detroit or wherever.
I was sliding down that bank with you. Trust me. I really was. And I feel like that's the other thing that kids do for us. They allow us to get to know a place that we can't know in that way as adults, because I grew up in Moundsville, West Virginia, but I live in Wheeling, and my son was born here, and he knows the city in a different way than I will ever know, because it's his native place. And I think children bring that to us. They allow us to get acquainted with a place where we weren't born and we weren't raised. And you described that just so well in your words. Thank you so much for that.
Well, thanks. You helped with Mysteries of Pittsburgh, and it really made me think of my son, because we gave him the Mysteries of Pittsburgh to read because when he was coming of age, and because we lived, as I said, in South Oakland, a lot of the places in our neighborhood, including our street, it mentions the Virgin Mary shrines on Parkview Avenue, were in the book, and he just walked around to all the places in the book. The Cloud Factory, the Lost Neighborhood. They were right around the corner from us, and just seeing those places that he grew up with transformed in literature was just a huge thing for him.
Well, and that's what we do with the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia, is we show people that writing about this region matters. It's just as powerful as writing about New York City or, any place in the world, that this place matters too. It's worthy of literature. And yeah, it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, that's been one of my goals as a writer, really, is to, coming from a family of, auto workers in a real industrial area and moving to a very industrial area. Once, the Steel City, it's, I want to say, yeah, these lives matter, and these places matter, and they should be a bigger part of our literature than they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think I sense this, at least when I hear your work, when I read it, there's like the keen power of observation that I always associate with somebody who's got 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You're of this and then not of it at the same time. Being an academic, but also not coming out of that culture, but coming out of the, working class culture, and that conversational tone that it's like you're almost tricking the audience. You're, I don't know, like lulling them a little bit, and then there's this boom, like, oh shoot, that is keenly observed.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because there's a poem in the Gunshy called The Secret Agent Briefcase, which deals with 1 foot in one place and 1 foot in the other, and kind of deals with that, what a lot of us call the imposter syndrome, which is, being in an academic world and feeling, because of your background, that you don't belong there in some way. And, it brings my family in, and it brings in, I'm going to show you something. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Sure.
I love show and tell. This is good.
Okay. So this is my grandfather's factory lunchbox.
Oh
And
my
you can see it says Daniels on it. But you can, I don't know if you can also see, but my grandfather's name was Ray. And he gave me the lunchbox when I went to work in the factory, and I cut off the Ray, but you can kind of see over here the outline of it. And so and later I felt bad about that I cut off his name, but I just thought we got the same last name. And one of the reasons I use Jim Ray Daniels as my fiction writing name, nobody knows this, but in my head it's there, is that to try and put the Ray back in. And it's my middle name, but it was my grandfather's name and my father's name, and it's a kind of nod to them. But in that poem, you know, I'm keeping the lunchbox in my factory, in my faculty office, Freudian slip there, and as a reminder of where I came from, just
I love
the solidity of it.
Oh, I love that so much. And I know that there are people watching that feel the way I do. And I would do anything to have my grandfather's lunchbox, his lunch pail. Anything to have that piece of not just him, but of who he was and his place in the world at that time as a factory worker.
Oh, yeah, that's like a holy relic for me. And
yeah,
in the poem, it sort of gives me this solidity in an academic world that is not always quite so solid.
Yeah.
So Jim, you are reading from Gun Shy tomorrow night. You have an event.
Yes, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in-person event at the White Whale Bookstore in Pittsburgh, and I'm very excited about it. I'm reading with a former student who just Aline Moore, who just published her first book, and so it's going to be a nice celebration. You know,
awesome.
As a writer, you only got one first book, and I'm really excited for her. And it's my first in-person reading in a couple of years, so
yeah,
you have to be vaccinated and wear a mask, but it's still going to be fun.
Okay, good to know. So that's at the White Whale Bookstore on Liberty Avenue in Pittsburgh. Anybody who is in the Pittsburgh area, stop by and check out Jim reading in person from Gun Shy. If you could show everybody the new book.
Yeah, I like the cover.
It looks sharp.
Great.
Very cool.
Before we go, Damien, I believe that you are doing a reading tomorrow night too. It's virtual. Will people be able to catch it live and also recorded later, or how does that work?
Well, they have to be they can catch it live via Zoom. To see it later, I believe you have to join like the Dyer it's the Dyer reading series run by Timothy Gager out of Boston. And I believe you sort of sign up for the series and you have the password to watch something not live.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So
Tim was on
Facebook.
show, right?
What's that?
Tim was on WANA Live not long ago,
He
right?
was like last year, I think, or maybe it's all kind of blurred together. But yes, yeah. He's doing a heck of a job up there. He's brought in a lot of wonderful people. I don't know why he's got me, but he's brought in a lot of wonderful people. So I'm very excited about that. Thank you for the plug.
Well, it's nice to think of our words crossing in the air tomorrow night, Damien.
Right on, right on. Well, all right. Thanks, Jim, for coming on. We really appreciate you making time for us, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. And next week we got Molly Fuller from Ohio. Right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Take care.